Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Nima from Hillsboro. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm having a good day.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to have you here. And that's Hillsboro, the band, not Hillsboro, Texas, about a half hour up the road from me. So, anybody that was curious,
We
um,
got to play there or something. Get some
yeah.
merch.
Oh yeah, there's they just opened up I don't have you ever been to Texas?
I've been in the airport, but
Okay.
not
So
properly.
have you heard of Bucky's?
No.
Okay, so Bucky's is like a super giant gas station that
Mm.
is predominantly in Texas. It's in a few other places, but they just opened one in
Oh,
Hillsboro, so
cool.
that's like their big claim to fame right now.
That they got like the sick gas station in the area.
Yep, and it's like booming their economy and all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, of
That's
course it is. So,
uh,
um, but excited to have you here. You're up in Victoria, right? British Columbia.
yeah, all the way up there. Currently, anyway, I sort of live between here and Vancouver, but that's where I'm broadcasting from right now, I guess.
Awesome. 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 So what's kind of the history of Hillsboro? How'd y'all come together?
I mean, when we all kind of knew each other in high school, we all really didn't like each other though, which initially like we were all kind of playing in like different bands when we were like 15, 16, and like I just remember seeing the other guys at shows and the vibe was like it wasn't aggressive or anything, but we were all pretty shy and kind of thought everyone else was lame. And so we but we'd still go to each other's shows and stuff. So it's when I sort of met everyone, and like a couple of the other guys had made music together for like a few years in a different band called ACAB Rocky. That was like a Victoria establishment kind of. It was they never really like did a whole lot outside of that, but like if you were like 16 in Victoria at that time, it was like I thought they were so sick. Uh, but then I sort of started writing guitar music after a few years. I was initially like playing synths in my old band and producing and stuff, but ended up meeting the guys through a mutual friend. I think I had convinced someone to like come play guitar, and he knew Oliver the drummer, and then it sort of just swelled from there. It's like, oh, we got to play shows, we should probably add people. And then then COVID happened and we hung out for like 3 straight years, and now we're sort of inseparable.
Nice, nice. So COVID kind of like your community kind of brought you together, but then COVID kind of cemented you together.
Basically, yeah, I feel like it was just you kind of had to choose who you were going to spend time with, and we all wanted to make music.
Nice,
And so that's just sort of what we ended up doing.
nice. So the early days, what you'd mentioned, or you'd said, kind of said that you kind of hated each other, but is that more of the hatred that you weren't in each other's bands, and if you weren't a part of your band, then you weren't cool or whatever?
I mean, a little bit. It is funny how kind of those sort of like you get these like small boy gang
Yeah,
dynamics going on at that age and stuff. There was definitely a bit of that, just sort of being like, nah, like they're not as sick as us. Those guys are lame or I mean, we were kind of thinking that way, and then it's funny talking to the guys later. And they're like, "Oh, I feel like you guys didn't like our band," and they're like, "No, we didn't like your band." but yeah, I mean, I guess it all sort of worked out, despite.
nice.
I mean, and now we beef with other bands, so
Fair, fair, fair. It's one of it's one of those things where it's like you felt like they hated your band, and it was like, no, we're just making it up in our heads, and then you confront them about it, and it's like, no, we actually hated your band, like, and it's like,
yeah.
oh no,
Well,
like, go ahead.
it's just something about being that age, like I think, because now I mean, like even like people whose bands,
Yeah,
I hate your band. It's like I'll still probably like. I mean, it's all pretty superficial. I mean, it's music, right? Like I'll
yeah,
still probably play shows with them and like have a beer
right.
or whatever. It's not personal or anything, but just like I don't know when I was 16, I was pretty serious about what I thought was okay and not okay. And, as I was a 16-year-old punk at a basement show. I don't know what you kind of
Fair,
expect from that, but
yeah, fair enough. So, so you guys came together right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic kind of
Mhm.
cemented you together, like we had mentioned.
Mhm.
And then you didn't start releasing music till last year. Was I reading that correctly, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we had like when we started the band like 3 months before COVID hit, and like we put out a few songs just for like our friends to hear. But yeah, we sort of didn't want to put anything out until we knew we could tour it. Like
Mm,
that live shows were always sort of a big reason for us to do the band in the first place. And so we kind of just wanted to make sure that if we were going to put something out, we were going to be able to like put it in front of people and give it the life. It just I don't know. I thought a lot of people did like lockdown music or live streams and stuff, and no beef to anyone who did that, but like it just didn't wasn't what felt exciting to us at the
yeah.
time. So we just took the time to get better and better, and then trusted that once things opened up, we would probably be able to play a ton of shows and we'd have a bunch of songs to play. So that's kind of what ended up happening.
As somebody that really tried to help push the live streaming aspect of things along, it wasn't that exciting. Like it was literally out of sheer boredom.
Well, there's value in that. I mean, and in retrospect, I look at people who did like really cool stuff with it sometimes, and I think like, oh man, I was so up my own
Yeah.
to like
Um,
think that I that was beneath me or something. But um,
right.
yeah, I feel like I mean, it's not like we didn't have live streams before.
Yeah.
I think no one was frothing at the mouth to begin with to like.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Because
I know I live stream's cool. It's like I don't want to pay $30 for a live stream, or like it's kind of
yeah. It is it's one of those things where it's like we tried to help musicians by
Mhm.
getting behind like a live stream and basically setting everything up so that
Mhm.
all they had to do was just come on and play.
That's awesome.
Except except the issue was none of the infrastructure was in play yet. So like somebody would start playing, and then because we had to use Zoom, the like all the fancy features it has, it would EQ out any like decimal, like anything below this decibel point. And so they'd start singing and you could barely hear the bass notes in the guitar or
Oh
whatever.
man.
And like it sounds like they're singing in a tin can. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And then because not everybody had like interfaces, so a lot of them were
Right.
just playing through like headphone, like Apple
Yeah.
earphones or whatever. And it's just like, oh, so terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely grateful that we're back
Yeah,
getting in front of people. At least I mean it's been I guess a year or two now of that.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Oh, so you guys just dropped a new single, which was supposed to be a part of that kind of debut. What was it, an EP or was it an LP that you guys
Our
released
debut
last year?
yeah, those are first LP. It was kind of I don't know. It was we were writing so much stuff at that time. And we had so many songs that we finished, but only really 10 of them made sense for that first record, just in terms of the sort of world we were trying to build there. And for the new stuff, like the new single, and the whole like White Trash EP that we have coming out now, we really just wanted to make sure they were 100%, their own, reaching their fullest potential. We
Yeah.
felt like they could hit a lot harder, and they were kind of coming from a different place in my life personally with lyrics and
Mm.
whatnot. That was a little bit more uh, angry, I guess, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I just we kind of want to just make sure that had its own world, and we have the time
Fair.
to do it now.
Fair. Now, do you feel like your music has kind of evolved from that first LP that you released last year to kind of the stuff that you're working on and releasing now?
100%. Yeah, I think playing live shows has been a massive thing because that first LP was pretty much made on a laptop, and then we taught ourselves how to play it. But then now, after playing gigs for a couple years straight, we're kind of more inspired by things that feel a little more physical and maybe a little less brainy.
Mhm.
I mean, you always want to put stuff in the headphones that, like, if a 15-year-old kid is like smoking weed to your record, like, you want the ear candy in there, but we wanted something that, we could play at shows and people would go crazy for, and
Nice.
start almost writing to get people to hit each other. So that's kind of been the vibe lately.
Nice. And this is all building up to the White Trash EP.
Yeah, yeah, that's coming out end of this month, so August 23rd, I guess. Not
Nice,
sure
nice.
when this is coming out.
And how when did you specifically start writing for this EP, or were you just kind of writing and it's like, oh hey, this kind of all works as its own thing, so let's do that.
Definitely the latter. We don't generally like decide we're gonna make a record and then or something and then end up writing songs for it.
Yeah,
It's we're always just sort of in a constant state of making stuff.
yeah,
And then as you sort of water the plants, things start to kind of find their little groups. Uh,
nice.
and then we'll finish them with that in mind. But
Nice. One of my favorite, so one of the consistent things, so I have a few friends that are in various different like rock bands, punk band, like different
cool.
variations of rock bands. And one of my favorite things is going to one of their practices and looking at like if they, whether it's a sheet of paper or a chalkboard or a marker board of random names of songs that they're currently working on.
That's
And,
oh
and
my
so
god.
it's just like a trigger phrase, word or phrase, just to kind of remind themselves what it is. So like one time it was like purple bananas or something like that. And because the guy that was writing it was wearing a purple shirt eating bananas when he wrote this or when he came up with the riff or
That's
whatever.
awesome.
And so do you guys have anything like that? Do you give it like little cute fun names or
Oh yeah, that's we're actually kind of notorious for that. Because like some a lot of the times now, kids will like come up after the end of the gig and like
yeah,
grab our set lists and be
yeah,
like, "Can I have this?" And then they'll hear us for the first time or something, and like, "Okay, I want to know like which songs to look up." And it's like, we have code names for everything, so even if it is out, it's like impossible. And then like the new stuff, the working titles are just in kind of ridiculous. I think we might try to keep some of them, but it's
yeah.
stuff like I think we have one called "E-Girls for President." We have one called just "Weed,"
Nice.
um, or like what else was a good one? I don't know. There's just like a lot of sort of in jokes
Yeah.
and stuff that you wouldn't really want to call a song for sure.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure. I
go
think
ahead.
that's kind of the no, I was gonna say I feel like that's kind of the what makes it fun to go to practice is it's like, oh, we're gonna end up playing this song and they're gonna say whatever the title is, it's gonna make me laugh because it's gonna take me back to the moment that
Mm-hmm.
as to why it's funny. And so it's just a bunch of in jokes that nobody else will get. And that's
100%.
kind of why I love it. So
Well, yeah, I feel like you can feel that. Like, it's like even if you're not in on a particular joke, it's still
yeah,
like almost fun to watch someone have that dynamic. And I mean, not even when we rename songs, we still use the working titles,
yeah.
with each other. So if we're screaming at each other on stage, no one understands really what we're talking
Fair enough. Fair enough. So,
about.
what? Obviously, you've got the new EP coming up here at the end of the
Mhm.
month. What's kind of running through y'all's head right now? Is you're what about 2 weeks away, little less?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to head on tour actually. I think we're announcing it next week, but we're about to tour the States for like 3 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Um, so I'm really just kind of getting the ducks in order for that, trying to get posters done and make sure we have places to stay and everything. I'm super excited for people to hear the music. I think it's gonna be like just some I don't know, people have been going to our shows and wanting to hear these songs for a long time, so I'm just glad for those people that they're getting to hear it. And I'm happy to be on the road again, but I'm just sort of in the midst of that insanity of emailing people and trying to figure out if I can crash beside someone's pool or something. And
Fair. Now,
yeah.
are you the one that kind of handles a lot of the touring stuff, or is that kind of a band collective thing, or?
We all sort of share it. This time, our we have a manager,
Mhm.
uh, friend Eric, and he's just been doing a lot of the booking. But I mean, inevitably, no matter how much work you do a month before you're supposed to go down there,
Yeah.
everything changes.
Yep.
And so we're sort of just in the middle of that right now. And I used to live like in the Bay Area and stuff, so there's a
Nice.
lot of friends I want to make sure I see when I'm down there.
For sure.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, we just got approved to like go to the States for like a year straight instead of just the 3 weeks. So I think we're gonna be coming down a lot more. Hopefully, get
Right.
to come to Texas and see
That would be
everything.
sick. It Texas is like I'm kind of at a crossroads roads right now, so because I'm originally from Chicago, so I was born and
Mhm.
raised in
Oh, cool.
Chicago, and I moved to Texas right before the pandemic. So like right around the time you guys started playing together
Yeah.
and all that stuff is when I moved to Texas, and I was here. I like the whole plan was be here 2 years, right? And then I'll go on to whatever the next phase is, whether I'm
Right.
going further out west or if I'm going to go to like Nashville or something like that. And then that would kind of be it. Every year I stay here, it's freaking harder to leave because it's like, oh, well, if I go to like Nashville, they're not going to have this. And I love this, or whatever it is. So I may be in
Yeah.
Texas the rest of my life. Who knows?
Wow. I mean, I guess I gotta check it. I have some friends that out there in Austin, I think,
Okay.
that are always bugging me to come check it out. And I don't know. I've always wanted to check out the sort of American South,
Yeah.
and it's just like a whole world that I feel like I'm sort of witnessing from a distance that I really want
Yeah.
to get immersed in. I think we're gonna try to tour down there in the spring or something.
Nice.
It's due.
I will say I have just recently started booking, like we'd mentioned before we jumped on here about the podcast tour thing that I'm working
Hmm.
out, and I just started booking that stuff out the other day, and that is the hardest, like craziest art form that you really have to have a mind for on how to book out a freaking tour. It is crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I think enough credit is not given to uh I mean, booking agents are one thing, but especially like if I know a lot of artists booking their own tours or
Yeah.
just creative people, sorting that all out. The logistic nightmare
Yep.
of booking like 15 shows in a row. Like one show is crazy enough when you think like just the number of emails that need to
Yeah.
be sent
Yep.
is absolutely terrifying to someone like me. Like I have
Oh
I
yeah.
have a lot of help, but yeah, it's serious. But it's also like the most rewarding thing
Yeah.
in the world.
And especially like for a band, it's one thing because for the most part, venues know what they're getting. Like, okay, it's a
Yeah,
band.
true.
Like they know what they're getting. But when I try and explain to them what a live podcast is with musical performances, they're thinking one thing, and it's like, no, it's not as crazy as you think it is. And
Right.
it's so it's a whole thing. It's like a lot of explaining what's going on. So that's
Yeah, damn. Yeah, I can't really imagine.
that. Yeah. But so you're up in Victoria. You said you live down in the Bay Area. You're not from the Bay Area though, are you?
No, no, I'm from here. It was just like right out of high school. I My brother was living down there, still does, in Oakland,
Okay.
and I had kind of been going through some intense things as
Hmm.
17, 18-year-olds do.
Fair.
And I ended up not really knowing what I was gonna do, and he just said, "Yo, like, come down here, figure yourself out. Like, I don't know, just see something different." So yeah, I lived in Oakland for a few months there, and it was honestly like a super formative experience.
Nice.
Just seeing the music scene down there I mean, the Bay Area music scene is like totally something. It compared to where I'm from, it's like a super legendary
Yeah.
mecca of music. So just like seeing so many bands and going to so many gigs and just like staying out till 5 in the morning and hanging out with people, in college dorms and stuff. That whole sort of experience really informed kind of what I'm doing now to some extent.
Yeah. That's why I often tell people it's like if you ever feel stuck or feel like your life's not going anywhere, just move away for a
Yeah.
year, two, just move away for a year or 2 years, and you'll get a whole fresh perspective on life. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I lived in Chicago, South Chicago for 22 years, and then I went away to college, and then I moved on from there. And I've been away from home for 13 years. I am
Mhm.
the happiest I've ever been in my life.
That's incredible. Yeah, I
So
feel like that's so underrated somehow. Like, I mean, it's funny because at least to me, it seems kind of obvious. Like, oh, go somewhere else and you'll be in a different headspace.
yeah,
But the existential value on that is like insurmountable. I think
yeah,
if I don't know, maybe it's something to do with like when everything else changes around you, maybe you like notice yourself
hmm,
more, or there's just a certain, I don't know, I think any situation where you're feeling excited and maybe like a little bit nervous but mostly sort of inspired, I think that there's very few ways to do that as directly as just
yeah,
like putting yourself in a new place and seeing what
yeah.
happens.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you've got the new single out now. You've got the EP dropping in. You said that about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here trying to do math in my head, and I'm like, why am I trying to pretend like I know how to do math?
No,
So,
don't worry about that. I don't even think about that either.
yeah.
It's
So in about 2 weeks, and then you've got the unannounced, confirmed unannounced tour coming up.
yeah.
When you do get like 2 seconds to yourself, what do you do outside of music?
Oof, that's pretty rare to be honest. I mean, it's what do I do? I've been getting really I I used to party really hard for a
Hmm.
really long time, and I've sort of recently gotten sober from like hard drugs and alcohol for the
Hmm.
first time in my life for like an extended period of
Yeah,
time. And I am constantly trying to figure out how to fill my time.
fair.
I'm sort of like I've been getting into old CRT televisions and like
Oh, nice.
camcorders.
Yep.
And I try to like hang out with my girlfriend. But honestly, most of the time I'm just doing music.
Nice. I've been trying to figure out how the vinyl works, like pressing vinyl, and how
Oh,
that like
cool.
magic science works. And it's like, because ultimately, like that would be like the coolest thing ever is if I somehow like became a vinyl presser.
I
Like,
think that's attainable. There's things you can do to achieve that
yeah,
goal for sure.
it's just like I sit here and watch these videos because like the sheer physics or the math of it on how you put the needle on and then music comes out, none of that makes any kind of sense to me.
No,
But
it every time I put on a record, it still blows my mind.
yeah, but at the end of the day, if I could open up a record pressing operation, oh, I'd be so happy. That would be ridiculous. So
You should do it. I feel like bands, there's also like a need for more resources in that
mhm,
department. Um, I think we're no longer looking at like year-long wait times for vinyl because Taylor Swift is pressing all of them or something. I think
yeah,
that was a thing for a second, but it's still definitely like not the easiest thing. So yeah,
or
definitely in full
cheapest.
support. Or cheapest. No,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, yeah, I won't even get into our finances,
right.
but
Like I feel like we could do a whole hour on band finances and how much money you have to put into a band just to get a dollar out of it. So
I mean, it would probably be pretty helpful for a lot of people. I mean, I had no I wouldn't change a thing for the world, but like
yeah,
I definitely had no idea about that whole that whole
yeah,
side of
side
things.
of it. Nice. Um, but yeah, no, I really appreciate your time. Really enjoyed this conversation. If anybody wants to check out Hillsboro, the upcoming EP, the upcoming tour as it gets announced and all that stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Definitely Instagram at Hillsboro Inc. is sort of the easiest way
Mhm.
see our information. Um, we're also on YouTube and Spotify as Hillsboro if you
Nice.
want to check that out. Yeah, I think
Gotcha.
that's the main channels.
I do have to ask one question
Of course.
because now I am kind of concerned that I'm on some kind of FBI watch list. I was on your Spotify page, and there's like a wiki page that's
Oh
attached to your
yeah.
Spotify page, except it goes to like some Arab thing.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that
that was
intentional or is that like not supposed to be there?
no, that's intentional. I used when I was a kid, my parents put me in this really intense like theology sort of religion class
Hmm.
from like age 10 to 15,
Fair.
and it was kind of crazy. Like me and like 10 other kids would just go to this like elderly Iranian man's house on Sundays, and he it wasn't creepy at all. He would just like teach us
Mm.
about religions and stuff. But it was stuff that was like keep in mind I'm 11 in this situation and there is a grown man speaking to me about like Arab religious
Yeah.
numerology.
Mm.
Uh, and that was sort of just this really like that's a whole can of worms in terms of like I'm not super educated on
Okay.
Islam or anything like that, but like
Fair.
I found like a note that referenced to it or something, and there was a it's like the in some numerology thing added up to 666, and I think I was stoned and thought it was cool, so I added it to our Spotify.
Fair.
But that's I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I haven't taken it down.
No, no, I was just
You
curious. I
are
was
on a
saying,
watch list though. You they are coming
I
for you.
mean, I feel like as Americans, we're all on watch lists anymore. So,
Yeah,
but that's a
yeah.
whole different conversation that we will not get into
Yeah.
because I, I, I want you guys to come to America. We won't get into that conversation.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. For sure.
um, so you, so the tour will get announced next week sometime. And do you have a hard start date on that, or is that still kind
Yeah.
of getting finalized?
No, so the first show is going to be in Seattle on August 31st.
Nice.
With a band called Black Hens and a band called Old Mom. They're both really sick. Uh, I mean, in terms of other highlights, I guess we're basically going to San Diego and back.
Okay. Nice.
So doing the whole West Coast, and we're gonna duck in a bit and do like Arizona and Utah and
Nice.
Idaho too. Uh,
Utah is really cool. Like depending
I'm
on
stoked.
how far east you come into Utah, like I mean, I guess there's really only so much you can do in Utah, but if you go through like Moab and go through like
Mm.
red desert or whatever it's called, but it's like if you go through the daytime during like in like central and south Utah, you'll never be bored. Like there's just some
Oh, sick.
amazing looking like rocks and all that stuff. So
That's sick. I'm really really stoked. I really love the desert and just sort of I don't know if it's a Canadian thing. I really like trip out on nature more
nice.
than some people. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice. I still need to come up to Canada. I've only been to Canada once in my life, and it wasn't even really, I don't consider it Canada. I went to Windsor once when I was like 14 because my dad worked in Detroit and he's like, "Oh, let's go to Canada for lunch." And this was pre 9/11, so it was
For
like,
lunch.
yeah, it was like pre 9/11. So it wasn't like you didn't need your passport to get into Canada or anything. It was just kind of like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we're going to lunch. Okay, cool. Come on in."
Crazy.
And we went to Windsor and it was just like, "Okay, this is North Detroit. Like there's nothing crazy here." So, yeah.
Yeah, Ontario definitely kind of has that vibe. I mean, yeah, come out to Vancouver. We'll show you a good time. It'll be
Nice.
there's definitely cool stuff happening. It's just so spread out because there's mountains and crap
Yeah.
everywhere. But
Awesome. It's definitely on the to-do list. There's a lot of things on the to-do list for
for sure.
2025.
For sure.
I got to get that money right. So,
I feel that.
but yeah, excited. Glad you guys are coming to the States and going to be doing a little run. Hopefully in the springtime, we can get you down here to Texas.
Yeah.
As long as you get here before July, you're good.
Too hot after that?
Well, it depends on how much it rained in
Right.
April, May, and June. If it rained a lot in April, May, and June, it'll be humid, but it won't be too bad.
Mm.
But if we didn't get any rain, it'll probably be triple digits.
Oh
at
man. I
any
mean,
point.
I do that sounds brutal. I mean, I do pretty well in the heat. I think what we were thinking about too is we got a couple band members that are like vegan, vegetarian, and that's gonna be more an interesting thing because I'm excited for barbecue and
Oh yes,
stuff like
yes.
that. But those guys might be relegated to Trader Joe's wraps for the entire time we're staying. I
Trader.
don't know.
Well, I mean, if the smaller towns you go into,
Mm,
that might be like depending on the direction you go. If like you're going from like San Antonio to like Dallas,
yeah,
San Antonio, Austin, maybe Waco and Dallas, you won't have a problem for vegetarian options.
right.
But if you stop in like Waxahachie, where it's like population 70, you might have a
Yeah.
problem. So,
Yeah. I remember that last year when we first crossed the border, it was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and we crossed into the border to Washington, and we immediately stopped, and we hadn't really experienced like even like fried chicken,
oh,
like just it being everywhere, and
yeah.
b the portions being so good,
Yep.
and it was like I figured like, oh, I'll just get like a little thing that seems cheap. It was more chicken than I had like ever seen in my life. And then I only ate fried chicken for like 2 straight days and felt like I was gonna die. And then
Right.
I got my diet together. But
Right.
worth it.
Yeah. America will, if you have self-control issues when it comes to food, America will fuck you up like hardcore.
It's
So,
what it's
yeah,
all about.
right. It's absolutely amazing. But really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
If you
likewise.
want to hit the socials one last time here for everyone.
Yeah, at Hillsboro Inc. on pretty much everything.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the conversation. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.